One of the biggest claims in modern teaching methods is that the lag and snap is the magic key for developing a pro-level forehand. While this idea holds some merit, the problem is that a lag and snap is a consequence of much more important factors, and focusing on it prevents players from developing the basic components that really could give them a technically superior forehand. Today we are going to fix the system and not the symptoms, and we are going to look at what really leads to the player creating a lag and snap naturally. First, let's explain what the lag and snap is. So, this term, or what we could call a delay in the kinetic chain, is the racket leading behind the body as the last moving part. You could think of it as the racket being along for the ride. Now, the belief of lag and snap is that it has to do with the manipulation of the arm to create a flipping motion, and people at 3.0 level and below are frustrated and seldom succeed when trying to replicate this move by manipulating their wrist. It's counterintuitive, but trying to make this move happen is actually making a lot of people's forehands worse. So, how can you do it properly? If your wrist is relaxed at the top of the backswing, it will naturally lay back as the racket moves downward and the hitting arm rotates backward. This backward rotation is called external rotation in biomechanics, and it's what Rick Macy refers to as the flip. There is no additional delay or lag. The problem is lower level players can be stiff and mechanical, and so this rotation doesn't happen naturally as a result of going with the body first, and because of this, the wrist doesn't lay back into the slot. These players are intent on creating lag, so they tense up further and try to force the wrist back into the slot position, which makes everything more awkward and slows the arm and racket down, impeding acceleration and extension into the swing. While they are thinking about how to lag and wondering if they are, the ball gets on top of them and the forward swing is short and muscled. Now that we understand how lag is created, what about the snap? At contact, the wrist is laid back, so is snap really the proper term for what happens in the follow-through? The answer is no. The vast majority of all forehands hit by world-class players, the wrist is still laid back to some significant degree before, during, and after contact. What do we witness once the ball has left the strings is a relaxation of the wrist, which people watching high-speed tennis mistake for a snap or flick around the ball. The wrist is a hinge, and the force of the forward swing naturally acts on the racket head, making it want to come around. Top players are restraining this to align the racket head with the shot. This is a major insight that makes perfect sense when you look at the video evidence and should change the way that people view the forehand. And sure, some other factors come into play, where the player is on the court and the relationship of his position to the line incoming ball. But in general, the angle of the wrist orients the racket head with the shot line at contact point. You can see this very clearly by comparing inside-out and inside-in forehands. Here you have players in relatively the same spot in the court playing balls coming to them on similar angles. In the animations, note the relationship between the racket head angle, the wrist, and the shot line. To hit inside-out, the wrist is slightly more laid back at contact. To hit inside-in, it is slightly more flexed. Note also how this varies with grips. The more conservative grips will have more wrist layback at the start of the forward swing. The more extreme grips will have less. This is true at contact as well. The conservative grips will have more layback at contact, the extreme grips less. But in both cases, you can see the difference in relation to the inside-out and the inside-in shot lines. More layback going inside-out and less layback going inside-in. Now, what are the important driving factors that result in the lag and snap? As the racket is along for the ride and trailing as the last moving part, what players should focus on is the coiling and uncoiling in the legs and shoulders. The two positions you should look to master are the full unit turn with a no backswing, which keeps the racket on the outside of the body, slightly hooded and inverted. Then, full extension through the ball with the arm loose behind as the last moving part. Something that will also help with the lag and snap is the outside backswing position, where the racket head stays on the outside of the player, slightly hooded and inverted, which leads to the pat the dog position, which is going to be a natural result of relaxing the arm before the initiation of the forward swing. A lot of people are trying to fix the symptoms and not the system for their shots. If you want an entire teaching system that is devoted to solving the problems that are impeding players' success, check out my online course. You can click the link in my bio for more information.